From a cartoon with violent implication to behind-the-scenes fisticuffs, the drama doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. These celebs just love to hate each other. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie famously starred together on the reality show The Simple Life, on which the two multi-millionaire socialites lived like peasants in small-town America. It's hard to confirm if jealousy was the catalyst for their eventual split, but what is clear is that their friendship was effectively over when the show ended, at least for a while. Allegedly, while Hilton was gearing up for her infamous Saturday Night Live hosting gig in 2005, Richie screened a copy of Hilton's sex tape without her consent or knowledge, although Richie denied the allegations. Hilton then said in a statement, "It's no big secret that Nicole and I are no longer friends. Nicole knows what she did, and that's all I'm ever going to say about it." But now, it appears that these two have buried the hatchet, as they trade compliments instead of barbs and get along like old times. Star Trek veterans William Shatner and George Takei were allies on screen, but once the cameras stopped rolling, all bets were off. The first time their beef went public reportedly coincided with the release of Takei's 1994 autobiography, To the Stars, in which he accused Shatner of giving him a cold shoulder and changing scripts to give him a less prominent role. Then, in 2008, Shatner was upset when he wasn't invited to Takei's wedding. As he said in an interview at the time, "It's so patently obvious that there is a psychosis there. I don't know what his original thing about me was. I have no idea." Then, in his 2011 book, Shatner Rules, the former Star Trek leading man appeared to get to the bottom of the issue when he claimed that Takei didn't want to play second fiddle to him. Then, when Shatner rocketed into space with Jeff Bezos in 2021, Takei mocked him, reportedly saying, "He's boldly going where other people have gone before. He's a guinea pig."
Oh my!
Was the media pitting rival supermodels Tyra Banks and Naomi Campbell against each other, or were they merely getting the scoop on a real fight? It appears to be a chicken or the egg situation. While the media certainly hyped things up, there was definitely some genuine tension between the two for years. When Banks first hit the catwalk, she reportedly felt unwelcomed by Campbell, though she's acknowledged that the press had a hand in increasing the bad blood. As she admitted to People magazine in 2019, "I got to Paris and it was very difficult. I did really well really fast. But then the industry was saying, 'Oh, look out, Naomi Campbell. Sit your butt down.' It wasn't fair to Naomi, but her response was, 'To this day, I'm very scared of her. It was very difficult, like some of my lowest times of my life, dealing with that.'" The two eventually made up on Banks' talk show, but the beef wasn't quite finished. In a since-deleted 2020 Instagram post, Campbell shared an article from the website The Things entitled, "Here's Why Fans Are Starting to Think Tyra Banks is the Real Mean Girl, Not Naomi Campbell." They haven't come to blows, but it sure got Campbell's millions of followers talking.
Last time I contacted Tyra, we are in a good friendship.
Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall's feud was never quite public enough to grace the covers of tabloid rags, but Sex and the City fans certainly knew something was amiss when Cattrall was missing from the 2021 HBO Max revival and Just Like That. But it wasn't exactly a new development, nor an unexpected one for anyone who had been paying close enough attention. The bad blood ran under the surface for years, though everyone involved tried to keep things cool while the cameras were rolling. But in 2018, it all came undone. After Cattrall's brother died, Parker sent condolences that may not have been fully sincere. As Cattrall wrote on Instagram, "I don't need your love or support at this tragic time, Sarah Jessica Parker. Let me make this very clear. You are not my family. You are not my friend. So I'm writing you one last time to stop exploiting our tragedy in order to restore your nice girl persona." Bam Margera was one of the mainstays of Jackass in the franchise's heyday, and yet he was nowhere to be seen in Jackass Forever. So what happened? How could there be any bad blood between these guys who have endured so much torture together? In a nutshell, Margera violated a sobriety contract by testing positive for Adderall and was then essentially booted from the sequel. He didn't take too kindly to this, as he fired back with a lawsuit, in which he called the wellness agreement that he signed a sham. Margera even asked his social media followers to boycott the film in a series of since-deleted posts. As he tearfully claimed in an Instagram video, "Jackass does not care about me. Understand that, ladies and gentlemen. It was like my family that won't let me in because they saw I'm out here being a jackass on TMZ. So I can't be in Jackass because I'm out there being a jackass?"
Jackass was everything to me.
Good luck working with someone you hate on a show that's been on for as long as Grey's Anatomy. That's exactly the situation that Patrick Dempsey and Isaiah Washington found themselves in. Although neither of them lasted all 19 seasons and counting, Washington was ultimately let go after 3 seasons for allegedly using a homophobic slur on set. He claims that it wasn't directed at anyone specific, but his co-stars suspected that it was an attack on TR Knight. According to the book How to Save a Life, the inside story of Grey's Anatomy, Washington uttered the slur following a nasty on-set spat with Dempsey. Mark Wildling, one of the show's writers who was present when it all happened, claims that it started when one of the actors was late to set, supposedly as retaliation for the other one also having a tardiness problem. As Wildling recalled, they got into an arguing match, and then before you know it, they were physically fighting. I was standing there in Video Village. I'm like 6 feet 4 inches. I'm bigger than both of them, but I didn't really jump in right away because I'm like, I don't know if I want to get involved. The fight didn't last very long, but it was long enough for Washington to make a career-ending mistake.
I can't change that narrative, but what I can do is upset the absolutes about who I am as a human being.
With a franchise that's lasted as long as the Fast and Furious series, it's probably best if the biggest stars at least have a serviceable working relationship. Things started off smoothly enough for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and longtime series lead Vin Diesel when Johnson joined the franchise for 2011's Fast 5. But the two started butting heads around 2016 after Johnson called unspecified castmates candy asses on Instagram. Diesel then all but admitted that he was the one being called out, and then co-star Michelle Rodriguez confirmed that the two didn't exactly see eye to eye. Things haven't exactly gotten better since then. In November 2021, Diesel publicly pleaded with Johnson to return to the franchise, but Johnson dismissed this as manipulation and called Diesel out for supposedly weaponizing his kids and late co-star Paul Walker to pressure them. Kanye West was married to Kim Kardashian for 7 years, during which time they had 4 kids together. After they split in 2021, Kardashian found her way into the arms of Saturday Night Live alum Pete Davidson. West, unsurprisingly, had some thoughts about this development. This included calling Davidson skeet, making multiple since-deleted Instagram posts calling the comedian garbage, and asking his followers to scream at him if they saw him. He also wrote lyrics in Easy, his collaboration with The Game, about how much he wanted to beat up Davidson. The music video for the song features a claymation version of Davidson getting kidnapped and beheaded and ends with text saying, "Everyone lived happily ever after, except for Skeet you-know-who, JK, he's fine." Leaked text later emerged in which Davidson asked West to leave him and Kardashian alone and to grow up, before taunting him with a photo supposedly taken from Kardashian's bed.
I've had a really weird year.
Traditionally, those who seek to host late shows that air at 11:30 p.m. must first prove their worth on lower-profile gigs. Throughout most of the 80s and into the early 90s, David Letterman had hosted Late Night on NBC in anticipation of taking over The Tonight Show from longtime host Johnny Carson. Carson reportedly even gave Letterman his support to take over when he left, but there was another contender lurking nearby. Jay Leno, like Letterman, had made frequent appearances on The Tonight Show throughout the 80s and often served as a guest host when Carson was out. The Civil War was short but painful. With the network's anointing, Leno elbowed Letterman aside and seized control of The Tonight Show in 1992. As reported in the book Letterman, The Last Giant of Late Night, Letterman was understandably upset by this turn of events. He ended up leaving NBC for CBS, where he hosted The Late Show for years until handing the reins to Stephen Colbert in 2015. Though he earned the respect of the comedy world during his tenure there, and even hosted Carson as a guest, a privilege Leno never enjoyed, he was consistently chasing Leno's tail in the ratings. And that wasn't the only late-night war involving Jay Leno. In 2009, he agreed to step down from The Tonight Show and hand the reins to Conan O'Brien. O'Brien had been honing his chops for years in the late-night slot and waiting eagerly in the wings for his chance to helm the format's flagship. But Leno decided that he didn't want to leave his regular gig, and so The Jay Leno Show premiered in September 2009, airing Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. on NBC. This was, of course, right before O'Brien came on, with local news in between. Leno's lead-in quickly tanked in the ratings, dragging Conan down with him. NBC's solution was to bump The Tonight Show to 12:05 a.m. and move Leno back to 11:30. O'Brien fought back, arguing that The Tonight Show was an institution that deserved better and threatening to quit. NBC ultimately showed him the door and handed The Tonight Show back to its former host. Leno instantly became one of the most hated men on TV for a few months, with a supportive contingent rallying around O'Brien.
Bring Conan back!
When the smoke cleared, Leno was back in command, and O'Brien was out of a job, though he soon found a new home on TBS.